Ulysses S. Grant, the most famous American when he died. 1.5 million people at his funeral. That's more than Lincoln's funeral, more even than the Queen's funeral, and she just died 2 years ago. But even more unbelievable, he was bankrupt when he died. Beloved war hero, two-term president, bankrupt. But lying on his deathbed, dying in pain, unable to talk, and against all odds, Grant saved his entire family from destitution. This is the story of how a book saved the man who saved America with a little help from Mark Twain. First, a quick recap. His name was Ulysses S. Grant. He got married to Julia Dent, had 4 kids, entered the army during the Civil War, fighting for the North, became the most successful general in U.S. history, led the Union Army to victory, became a national hero, became the nation's first 4-star general, and was so popular after all that he became the youngest president to that point at just 46. He served for 8 years during one of the toughest times in U.S. history, attempting to unify the nation, before leaving office with a moderate fortune. Which is where things went south, because Grant's son Buck had a business opportunity, and Grant took it, putting $50,000 into his son's new investment firm, Grant & Ward. And things started going great. Grant started getting returns. He let Ward use his name to get even more investors on board. For the first time ever in his life, Grant had unlimited funds. He had done it. He had achieved independent wealth. Everything Ward invested in was turning to gold, complete profit. Except Ward wasn't actually investing in anything. He wasn't a savvy Wall Street guy at all. He was a scammer. He was actually just using new investors' money to pay old ones. Yep, Grant got Ponzi'd 65 years before the term Ponzi scheme was even invented. When it crumbled, it took down not only Grant, but his entire family. All 3 sons had their life savings in the firm. I don't see how I can trust any human being again, Grant said. This was a colossal swindle. The supposedly rich investment firm actually owed $17 million and had a piddly $68,000 in assets. Grant was ruined. He had $1 million one day, $80 the next. Strangers felt so bad to see this hero suffer that they were literally sending him envelopes with money. Grant was so desperate that he accepted them. But the disaster wasn't over. No, this is where the bottom drops out, because Grant wasn't feeling well. He had eaten a peach and suffered excruciating pain. He had a chronic sore throat, a sore in his mouth. He went to the doctor, cancer, terminal throat cancer. Grant was now 62 years old, dying, with absolutely no way to provide for his family, nothing to leave them. If he died now, he knew his family would live in poverty forever. He had to do something. In one last desperate effort, he decided to write his memoirs. He got an offer with a publishing house for 10% royalties and projected sales of 25,000 copies. And by chance, Mark Twain was at his house when he was getting ready to sign it. Twain took one look and was outraged by this terrible offer. As Twain recalled, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He told Grant he absolutely couldn't sign it. Twain knew that his little publishing house could sell more than 25,000 copies. He just needed a chance. So he gave Grant a crazy offer, 70% of the profits. Grant accepted the offer, but he knew that he would only make money if Twain actually followed through and could sell it. He was, yet again, putting his trust and financial future in someone else's hands. With his contract settled, Grant went to work writing, and Twain went to work selling. Now, Twain was a great writer, but he was an even better salesman. But he also knew that he couldn't personally go to every door and sell. So he created a huge sales campaign. He got 10,000 sales agents to sell door to door across the country. He put the retired veterans in uniforms to stir up empathy. He trained them, wrote a script for them to follow. He set them up for success, and he had them hit the streets. In just 3 months, Twain collected 100,000 orders. He predicted they could sell 200,000 more, quite a bit more than the 25,000 the original publisher promised. He went to tell Grant, who was dying but working hard through gruesome pain. Grant gave Twain the first part of the manuscript, and Twain was shocked. He had expected it to need a lot of editing, but this This was incredible. Twain said there was not one literary man in 100 who furnished as clear a copy as Grant. He barely had to edit it at all, just some grammar and punctuation. It turns out Grant was a really good writer. He had written every presidential speech he gave. His wartime orders were renowned for their exactness. He was such a good writer that for many years, people would suggest that Twain ghost wrote Grant's memoir. With the first part finished and Twain's sales news, Grant knew that if he could finish the book before he died, if he could finish this book, his family would be okay. So he kept going, looking at this book as his final battle. He wrote as the cancer sores spread in his mouth. He wrote as the tumor got so big that he could no longer speak. He moved to the country to help his breathing. He wrote in pain, morning to night, refusing most morphine to keep his head clear. He no longer slept. Lying down felt like he was being strangled. He dwindled down to 100 pounds. He wore jackets and hats in July to keep warm, and still he wrote. He told Twain, "I have worked faster than if I had been well." On July 16th, 1885, he finished his memoirs. 336,000 words, 1,200 pages in less than a year. He said, "There is nothing more I should do to it now, and therefore I am not likely to be more ready to go than at this moment." 7 days later, he died. And Julia, still living in destitution, mourned her husband. Her first royalty check came. It was for $200,000. The biggest royalty check in publishing history to date, more money than Grant had lost in the entire Ponzi scheme. Twain sent another check a few months later, and Julia lived the rest of her life as a rich woman. All in all, adjusted for inflation, Julia Grant made over $14 million in royalties. Twain, just over $6.5 million. By writing his memoirs to his dying breath, Grant had successfully staved off poverty for his entire family in one last heroic act. If you want to read more about Grant, many of the details for this video came from this book, Grant, by Chernow. This is a cradle-to-grave 1,100-page saga about Grant's life, but Chernow is a Pulitzer Prize-winning biographer, so the book is very readable. It reads like a story, not like a history book. There's also a whole nonfiction book about Twain and Grant's friendship, and of course you could pick up Ulysses Grant's memoirs, which haven't been out of print since they were published in 1885. And if you're looking for another video, maybe you would like this one about how Bill Watterson turned down loads of money because he loved being an artist so much.